Ah, there we go. I had to add myself to the screen.
Did you guys hear me ranting about the chairs to myself?
No, sorry.
Okay, never mind. Probably good you didn't.
You guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you.
We can,
Okay.
Stephen. Are you in the dark? Can't see.
I'll be there in just a second.
Okay, gotcha.
You have a higher voice than I thought you would for some reason, Stephen. And you have a lower one than I thought, Tim. Oh, this is weird.
I don't know if that is a compliment or an insult.
Neither. It's just an observation.
An observation.
Well, I just got out of writing mode, so maybe just being real serious right now. So, in case folks didn't hear, because I didn't realize I had to invite myself to the stream. Welcome. This is Tim Kaiver. We're doing a LitRPG Guildmasters live with AR Holloway and Stephen Landry. Yes, sorry. Aaron, AR, he won the beginning of the alphabet. So as we ask our questions today, we'll start with Aaron. But they are launching a few books today, so we're pretty excited about that. Wanted to let you guys know what those books are like and have a chat with these guys. So Aaron is releasing Exodus, and I thought we would start with just because both of you have released multiple series across different genres. Just to introduce yourself, so we'll start with Aaron. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what series you've released so far and what genres they are.
Of course. So I recent graduate from a master's program at BYU, and while going to that master's program, I wrote the first book in my Ethria series and published it. Ethria is a portal fantasy that is hardcore crunchy lit RPG, and
awesomely long.
Extremely long, yes. I think I got caught just right at the beginning of the trend of super long books. So coming out of lit RPG. So I wasn't the first, but
you helped pioneer it for sure.
Yeah, there we go. Hence the name of the first book, The Pioneer. You know? The second book, The Golem Crafter, in that series was released a few months ago, like 4 months ago, shortly after I got out of that master's program and realized there were no jobs because COVID. Yay! So that was fun. I wrote and then published that. And then I decided that I needed a little bit of break from Ethria because those books are extremely long and extremely dense. And so I decided, I remember what it was like playing Warcraft 3 when I was younger, and I loved it. So I decided to go and write something kind of in that vein, and that's where Exodus came from. It's a real lit RPG, meaning no portal. It's just in a game world, and it's kind of high fantasy game world, and it just follows the characters living in this game world. So that's where Exodus came from, and I plan on rapid releasing them over the course of the next few months. So expect to see that soon. There we go. Oh, I thought I would have the big spirit in the stream. Dang it.
And I shaved recently too.
What? Shut up.
Yeah. Well,
beard
trimmed.
Show off.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So thank you, Aaron. Stephen, how about you? What kind of series have you launched already? What are the genres for those?
Let's see. Back in 2016, I launched my first science fiction novel, Deep Darkness Volume 1. It was called Pull. Shortly after that, I launched the sequel called Trigger, Pull Trigger. Was gonna do a third book, but started working really heavily on lit RPG, and that was the same time I found the genre and honestly fell in love with it. So I started writing Stardivers in like 2017. Published it last year before publishing Contingency today.
Woot!
Probably the longest span between a lit RPG book ever.
It happens.
It happens, man.
Yeah, it does. And,
Trust me, you're not the only one. There are others out there who've had longer.
There are. And I also co-author the Vampire Sorcerer series, which is a lit RPG dungeon core harem, and a young adult series called Temple of the Storms. And then I have probably, I have the Rise and Rescue anthologies, which I helped put together. And then I've probably got about 7 other anthologies that I'm in with short stories.
Nice.
Yeah, so you've been busy for sure. I think we have to take it easy a little bit on ourselves when we think about, oh, it's been a year since I've released. I mean, that would be good for anybody, just to release a book. But you've also been busy with your other series too. So good job, Stephen. We're excited to see Stardivers Contingency releasing today. I'm gonna pull up. So I posted in the chat the link for Aaron's store, and then I'm going to do the same for you, Stephen. So Aaron, for your story, Exodus, tell us a little bit about the main character and the setting that we meet them in.
Of course. So, wow, I'm starting to get into that thing where, of course, no, okay. So, Exodus came about essentially as I was looking at Warcraft, and I was playing Baldur's Gate at the same time, and I was like, okay, I'm doing this to kind of decompress after I wrote Ithria at 2, and I'm like, I love the idea of multiple narratives happening, not simultaneously, but over the course of the overarching story from different perspectives. So it's all the same. It's all the same plot, following exactly what's not following what kind of what's going to happen, or the big picture events that happen, right? But every species or every group in my world is going to play a significant part in the major events that are going to be happening. And essentially each book is going to be focusing on those events, how that species or how that group came together, how they were formed, and then how they deal with their big crisis point. Culminating in the third book, which is I have yet to title, but it's going to be focusing on essentially an end of the world kind of apocalyptic-esque event where everyone comes together in kind of an Avengers game-esque situation, and they all have to fight the big bad that everybody's been messing with this whole time.
Let me just chime in real quick. Like, I love that concept, and what you just said right there totally sold me on it. Like, that's fantastic.
Cool. So the main character came about when I was looking at. I didn't realize that there was actually a wider mythos of Warcraft until about like 4 or 5 years ago, when I realized that WoW was a thing. I didn't even know WoW was a thing until about 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, why the heck did they not make a Warcraft 4? What's going on? And so finally I looked at it. I was like, wait, they made this thing. Anyway, so I had always assumed certain parts of the story had gone certain ways. And so essentially for certain characters. And so essentially once I was kind of depressed when I got out of when I found the new mythos, and I was like, oh, it didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen. So basically this is that. This is what I believe. It's almost a fan fiction, but not really. It's its own story. But that was an impetus for this. It's like I realized that playing through the old games, I kind of felt that sadness of like, oh, I know what's going to happen to this character now. I know what's going to happen to this character. I want to write a better ending for these things to happen. And so that's where I came up with the whole overarching plot. So.
Okay. So who's your main character?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you asked that question, didn't you?
That's all right.
The main character is Thune. Originally called a bunch of different other things that people pointed out might not be good names because of incidental meanings in other languages. So I changed it to Thune. Thune is essentially a human or an orc put into human society and raised in human society and then brought back to orc society. And he brings basically an entirely different perspective from either a human or an orc. He's not a human. He has all the instincts of an orc. But he's not an orc either because he wasn't raised in this rigid, regimented culture that orcs have had to invent and had to push in order to survive. So, yeah, that's kind of... He comes in with this kind of fresh perspective on what an orcish society could be, and no one really likes it except for him. So he has to start pushing back against that. And immediately from the get-go, he's faced with the overarching bad guy of the series. And he's like, what the heck is this bad thing? How the heck do I fight it? There's this ancient evil that's rising. I got like 5 pigs and a handful of people that are working for me, and that's about it. How the heck am I supposed to fight this end of world monster? And so, yeah, that's the story.
Okay, cool. So Stephen, your Stardivers Contingency is book 2 in that series. For those who haven't read Stardivers, what is the setting for your world, and who's your main character?
So, Stardivers takes place in the year 2074, and my main character is Breck. He is 17 at the time of the first Stardivers, and it basically, the first book follows his in the game world. His best friend Damien is killed in a VR accident, and it follows Breck's journey, forming relationships with new guildmates, dungeon diving, leveling up, and pursuing his best friend's killer. The second book continues the arc. It kind of goes into more of the mysteries and the lore of the World of Bane, which is the VR world that is in Stardivers that isn't necessarily a VR world. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but it's a little bit more than that. So the book series has all kinds of crazy science fiction concepts, everything from entire dungeon planets to alien artifacts, alien supernatural entities, and things of that nature. So one of the cool things in Stardivers 1, Breck is in the city called the Spire, and the Spire is kind of like a hub town that is guarded by these giant mech guardians. And Breck is the first person to survive an assault by one. And in the first book, that skyrockets his fame. Because one of the other things that I did when building out this world was I took the idea of streamers and gamers and brought that, tried to imagine what that would look like 50 years from now.
Okay, I gotta say, it sounds like you took everything possible RPG and sci-fi, threw it in a giant pot, and made LitRPG gumbo. This sounds fantastic.
Pretty much.
I'm about a third through the first book. So no spoilers.
I mean, I started writing it in 2016, into 2017, and I originally had about 7 books planned, and I've gone through multiple drafts, of course, and at the time that I was writing it, there really wasn't a sci-fi lit RPG. and that was so I was writing the book that I knew I wanted to read.
To say it's an underserved subcategory of the genre for sure. Sci-fi lit RPG. It's only like 5 or 6 that I know of, right?
I got a list of about I think 20, maybe 30.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah,
I eat it up. Yeah, you've seen the list.
I appreciate that I was in there, so I don't see that very often. So I appreciate that. So you started writing this in 2017. Is that what you said? First Starfighter? Yeah, that was when I first read The Land, and kind of like you, I was reading fantasy lit RPG and writing what I wanted a sci-fi lit RPG to look like. What kind of outside influences were you kind of wanting to put into this series? As far as
That question for me, or
sorry, Stephen.
Okay. Oh, you're the one that's sci-fi, not me.
You do write sci-fi though. You should talk about it.
I do, but we'll hold up on that for just a minute. Yeah.
I read everything sci-fi I can get my hands on. So like from classics like Dune to Starship Troopers, I read in like middle school. I read Starship Troopers right around the same time I read Lord of the Rings. So I think that had a lot to do with how I mashed them all together.
So you read two of the kings of genre fiction at the same time. Nice.
And then I said, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote my first little novel when I was in middle school. And it was bad. So bad, but good for a middle schooler. Go me.
I think I found my first one, because we moved around due to 2020. Moved around like 3 or 4 times this year. And I found my first novel I wrote in like 3rd grade. It was so bad. It had like hand-drawn pictures and like misspelled words. And
but it's so cool finding that
so
stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. It's called The Blob That Ate the World. Just this blob. Yeah.
Giant gelatinous cube.
Oh yeah, that's basically what it was.
like the size of a Borg ship coming to eat Earth.
I honestly think I got the idea because me and my friends. This is when I was really little, really young, and we hadn't yet played RPG. I got the idea when we got a hold of a monster manual and we were just flipping through pictures in 3.5, and we're like, "What is this?" Giant gelatinous cube was eating like a body or whatever. And I think that's where I got the idea, but I can't quite remember. So I just remember flipping through it. It's surreal, isn't it?
It is. One of the other things is I'm a huge gamer too. I don't have a Twitch or anything like that. I don't stream myself, but I follow streams and I game at least 4 to 7 hours daily. So one of the things I pulled in was my experience as a gamer. I pulled that into my writing as much as possible, and what I see and what I feel while playing. One of the things that I've always loved about gaming is story-driven gaming, is that it puts you in a position where you are that character and you get a sense and a feel of the world and what they're going through.
That kind of reminds me, one of the key elements of RPGs in particular, but of most video games, is the element of choice. Kind of sets it apart from other mediums. Element of choice and active participation. It can sometimes be a little bit difficult to put that kind of thing into lit RPG, but that's one of the key things that I think is important to catch, is to make sure that you go through the different options and things. So that's why I think I take it maybe a little overboard. That's why I'm
That
so crunchy.
that's definitely one of the things I love. I love when the character is given all these options, and then as a reader, you're kind of in the same mindset as the character, going through. Okay, if I choose this, what am I going to do? If I do this, what am I going to do? And it kind of sets your mind in different directions of how the story can progress.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like, wait, so you're telling me he's going to become Gandalf? Wait a minute, no, he's going to be like the Black Knight from Monty Python. Wait, what? And then when he finally makes the decision, it's like, oh wow, okay, he chose that one. That's really cool. And so now, yeah, it's cool.
You get that sense of relief, and then okay, now what's he going to do with this? Now that he has this new skill, this new power, now that he's leveled up, what happens next?
Either that or that sense of frustration, like, dang it, you could have been Gandalf. Why didn't you choose me? Like, right? So it depends, right? It's like which one you've chosen versus the character, and then you realize, oh wait, this is a character in a book. Yeah, the change in medium can sometimes be a bit tricky, but I think catching that choice aspect is really important. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a bit.
No, you're good.
You're fine. So 2 of the questions I came into wanting to ask today was the genre and the game mechanics. So Aaron, to kind of go back to yours, you did mention real RPG. And one of the reasons why I was thinking of those 2 questions is from when we post on the Facebook groups, people like to see what's the genre and what type of game mechanics. Like they want to see those keywords to know, is this the story that I want to read right now? Could you expand a little bit more on the real RPG and go into the game mechanics, Aaron?
Yeah, sure. So with Exodus, again, I said, yeah, sure. I need to catch myself when I do that. It's a bad tick when going live. Anyway, so the first thing is that real RPG. I kind of described it a little earlier. So essentially, what real RPG is, it's just an RPG novel, but instead of it being isekai or portal fantasy, or it being like a character going into a video game, it's just in a world that is fantasy or science fiction that just has those mechanics built into it. So it's as if the world itself were real, like in a high fantasy novel. You just kind of accept that this is a fantasy. You accept this is a different world than ours. But and that kind of is a good segue into the game mechanics. For Exodus, the game mechanics are a bit of a mix of 3 different systems. Bit of a mix of like more complicated RPG systems, like I think it's called Standard 5 or whatever, the open source one that's based on 3.5 fundamental rule set, right, with like strength, dexterity, constitution, that kind of thing. It's a little bit based on that in terms of its skills and level progression and experience and things like that. So there's that personal progression. But it's also a mix of kind of Warcraft 3's items, how a person can wear different items or use different items, and base building. One of the criticisms I got from Ethria 2 and Ethria 1 was that people thought going into it, having read the description, that, oh my gosh, there's going to be a lot of base building right at the beginning. And I can see how I accidentally made that kind of promise and didn't follow through yet. There will be eventually in the Ethria series for all those who are calling for that. It just takes time. The character needs to deal with issues first. But in Exodus, I just wanted to provide that right away. And so the character comes in and he's a Gull of his people, or he's a chieftain of his clan. And he walks in thinking he's going to have, right at the beginning, like one of the most powerful clans in all of Orkdom. And he ends up having like a dilapidated like outhouse basically for his house. And like his brother, instead of having like a mage's hut, has what is essentially a shack he made out of twigs and junk, and it's like an old dilapidated house and a bunch of jungle overgrown with vines and things. And so he has to start essentially from scratch. But the nice thing, one of the things he'll have working for him, and this is a little bit where I take mechanics. What was the other one? So I went over Warcraft. Okay, yeah. One of the other things he's going to have working for him is that a lot of people there have experience already, have knowledge of the kind of the tech trees and things that are available to them once they get to higher levels, because they used to be a more powerful clan. And so he gets that and he realizes, I don't want to be stuck in kind of the rut, the predetermined path that my people have kind of built over these years. And so he has to use his knowledge from humanity, basically, to change things a little bit. And his knowledge allows him different options. And his people push back a little bit, but then eventually they kind of see it. It's really interesting. I don't want to give away too much, but essentially there's a lot of base building, a lot of settlement building, some crafting, not a ton, but some crafting, leveling, RPG mechanics, all that kind of thing. Not quite as crunchy as Ethria, but dialed down only a little bit.
Cool. That was
Nice.
a question that I was asking myself. The book that I'm writing right now is a new series while I'm waiting for Windwalker to be the beta edits. And I'm at like chapter 16 and just started building the city. And I was wondering, is this too far in, roughly 40 to 50,000 words into the book before it's actually city building mechanics? What do you think, Aaron? Is that, from your experience with Ethria and Exodus? And
It just depends on the story.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like if you look at Ethria, I'm 2 books in, which is over 300,000 words. And I haven't, almost 400,000 words, and I haven't gotten there yet. So, I probably have 1 or 2 more books until I do get there. Whereas the land, it took even longer. Like there were 5 or 6. No, I think there were only like 3 books until he actually got himself to where he was building. But he set that expectation very early. And then there are other ones like Limitless Lands, where it's basically built into the character himself, right? He's a soldier, so
I was about to say, there's a lot of stories that the base building is basically the focus of the book, and it really depends on what you want to go for, whether you want the base building to be the focus or you want that to be secondary to the character themselves.
That's what I was trying to say. Good job.
Yeah, good point. I was thinking about that too, and I think that overall the main focus is I'm building up a powerful wizard, and so that's been the main focus. But he also has a dread fortress, so he is adding that as kind of a secondary.
Dread necromancer with my dread fortress. I love it.
In one of my collaborative novels series, Vampire Sorcerer, the main character actually has a vampire castle, and throughout the books, it's important to the plot that he actually goes out. One of the things he does is he goes on missions specifically to build up his forces, build up his castle.
Okay, so Tim's reminded me of Skeletor for some reason. I don't know why it jumped into my head, just Skeletor. And Stephen, yours reminded me of Castlevania. Just that, I don't know, in my head, I just got those images, and I was like, okay, I need to finish reading you guys' books. So I'm about a quarter of the way, or about third of the way through Stephen's. I haven't quite started. I need to do that. But I love the idea of Skeletor and okay.
I want to see that mashup now. Skeletor and Castlevania.
Oh yeah.
Mine was inspired by Raceland from Dragonlance.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Nice.
what if Raceland was 18 and isekai'd into a real RPG type of thing
Okay.
to become a powerful wizard. So, but Castlevania is one of his favorite games.
So it's a Portal plus a real RPG.
Yeah.
That's
I love
pretty
it.
awesome.
All right.
So
Nice.
I kind of like Aaron's with the real RPG. I with the Ciphercraft series, I wanted it to be real, so that the consequences were real. So I'm playing a little bit with how the portal will also impact, like you can actually die, and it will impact the real world as well. That's kind of where I come from as far as my genre preference. So Aaron, you kind of joked a little bit about him getting an outhouse to start out. So what
Oh,
would
no.
you say is the tone for Exodus? Is there humor? It sounds like maybe it's a little bit humor.
There's a little bit of that. Here's the thing. I have trouble writing humor on purpose. It just kind of flows into the story. Like, hey, there's an opportunity for a joke here, and I throw it in. It's definitely more of an epic story with some humor, and it's a well-rounded story. I mean, it has humor. It has even a tiny bit of romance for those who are interested in that. It has a little bit of everything in there. And that's kind of what I was going for, is a well-rounded story, which is what I like to read personally.
Same here. Yeah.
So Stephen, you've shared quite a few of the questions already you answered as far as the genre. Tell us a little bit about maybe 2 or 3 key game mechanics that you enjoy with your series, and then I wonder if you can give us one for the sequel that maybe isn't a spoiler. I know it's kind of hard to dance around that, but tell us a little bit about the series as a whole for the game mechanics, and then what you're adding with book.
I can take my headphones off if you need.
We don't want to spoil anything because we want
everything has game mechanics attached to it in Stardivers. I mean, from your weapons leveling with your character, your weapons can also function by themselves. Mechs play a huge role in Stardivers too. Mechs have levels as well. Starships, smaller, from big, huge, colossal ships down to the tiniest fighters, have different mechanics. It's not super crunchy. Like I didn't want to have like 4 or 5 pages of just crunch, but I've narrowed it down as much as possible. But the crunch is still there. And then the characters themselves have a skill tree, and each skill tree is individual to the character. Whereas Breck's skill tree, I think, has 62 stats on it.
Wow. Okay. Bit crunchy there.
Yeah.
I like that. All right.
I designed I basically picked from all my favorite video games, and from RPGs to first-person shooters, and tried to build out a functioning system. Like I actually have. They're not in the book, but I have skill trees for every individual character, and every time they level up as well. I think keeping track of game mechanics is a huge part of the process of writing LitRPG.
Oh yeah, huge. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
It's okay. I'm sick, so I'm a little foggy right now, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Sure, but I couldn't agree with you more, honestly, with regards to keeping track of the game mechanics. A couple of people I know, they like to, kind of their mantras are, if the game mechanics don't matter, then why the heck are they in there, right? It's like they actually you have to have the rules there, right? And you have to obey the rules and keep track of them. That's a huge part.
And okay, I think you mentioned one of the new things that are introduced in Stardivers 2. It was hinted at in 1, but it was really subtle the way it was hinted at, is there are cultivation elements to the world of Bane. Like I said, it's not exactly a VR world. It's possibly something totally different. But there are cultivation elements that are not do not strictly adhere to the levels of characters.
A self-contained quantum spatial anomaly. That's what you need. That's what you need to name it.
There.
I like that. That's funny.
One of the elements I thought was interesting was, and I can't remember the term you used, but when people die in there, in the game, what is it that is produced?
Hollows are produced, and when a person in the game dies, they leave behind an echo, and an echo is kind of like a ghost. And from there, these supernatural alien creatures, alien entities called hollows, appear, and they kind of swarm around the echoes and guard them like kind of like mini boss levels. So in the first book, Breck is a corpse diver, and it is his job to go and hunt down echoes and artifacts that are left by deceased players.
Yeah, that was cool. I thought that was a unique element to your book. How does that drive the story? If there's anything that you can say that isn't too much of a spoiler.
I mean, his best friend was killed.
Mm-hmm. And that happens like in chapter 1 or 2, so it's not necessarily a spoiler, but it's certainly that drove the story forward for me. It was like, okay, that's cool. I want to see, the mystery behind that. So let's see, we're getting up there on minutes here for the story or the podcast. How much or what could you guys say about anything for your release, any promotions that you want folks to know about? And we'll start with Aaron.
No special pricing at the moment. I'm sorry, COVID's hit us all hard. But Exodus is out today. It's been on pre-release up until now, and the audio for Ethria 2 will be out sometime, hopefully by the end of the month, and then before the end of the year, I want to have Exodus 2 out. The second book in the Exodus series. So that's kind of just news update for me. So. And
you released military sci-fi.
Oh yeah, there was a. Sure, I'll plug the little novella. So I wrote hard military science fiction novella, very very much based on kind of Is it EFY? No, HFY. Wow, HFY is an LDS thing. Don't worry about that. HFY, which the HFY subreddit, which is like humans, F yeah, right? That subreddit. It's just very much hard military science fiction, flash fiction type writing. I read some of those, got really inspired, and wrote a thing. And then
well, I love how you say that. I wrote a thing. You know?
And it just consumed me for like 3 days. And then I contacted my brain is just not functional right now. Jack Veraces. Contacted him. He wanted to really break into military science fiction himself as a narrator. And so I was like, hey, this is just kind of a passion project I'm doing. It's really kind of interesting. And so he's like, hey, I can narrate it and we can post it episodically. And so the Sci-Fi Shenanigans podcast has hosted it episodically, where we added in some sound effects and things. And then we cleaned that up, edited it. Oh, I hate that word. We fixed it up and we sent it over to Audible. And that should be releasing. It's a short novella, $8 for print, so very cheap. free. It's on Kindle Unlimited. It's like 99 cents to buy it for digital download. So super plug there for that. That was a lot of fun to write. So I am capable of writing hard military science fiction. Is what that proved to me.
Well, good deal. Yeah, I'm tempted to write in all kinds of genres, so I can certainly appreciate that one as well. Stephen, what do you have going on for your launch, or any other promotional things that you'd like to comment on?
As far as promotional, tonight I am doing a special reading with Dungeon Core and LitRPG readings with Creation Station as part of or Econ, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I think Aaron might show up.
I am. I forgot about
You
that.
are?
My
Awesome.
whole day is just, my brain's just not functional today. I'm doing that too.
And then besides that, I'm probably going to start running some promos around Christmas time for my young adult series, as well as my harem series, and probably my science fiction series as well. I tend to randomly give away free books all the time. And besides that, there is a secondary character in Stardivers 2 who will be getting her own novel early next year.
Oh, little tease there. Okay.
Cool. Well, for me, Windwalker should be releasing here in a few weeks, so that'll be the next thing that folks see from me. And I start work again next week, probably. So I've been on short-term disability with my back surgery, writing as much as I can, and that's about to end. So I'm not sure. We'll see what we could do for the LitRPG Guildmaster Live going forward. On the next people who are releasing might be me as far as the next Guildmaster release. I'm not sure, but anyway,
maybe I'll interview you.
You certainly can. So thanks for coming in.
When
guys.
we're all not broken and sick. I think we're all broken or sick in this podcast right now. Steven's got a cold. I had a huge migraine yesterday. I'm just exhausted from that. Tim is like still recovering from his back surgery. So all of us are being weird right now. Forgive us, listeners.
Happy Friday the 13th.
Happy Friday the 13th.
Yeah. All right, guys. And thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for joining us, Lavelle and JS and Jamie and Kevolution. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.
See you guys.